Okay, so today we're going to do a deep dive on something I think pretty much everyone listening can relate to. It's self-sabotage. Um, and we actually got a bunch of really interesting videos from viewers that really get into like the psychology behind, like why do we get in our own way? And I have to say, like some of this stuff is pretty eye-opening.
It is really fascinating how we can be our own worst enemies sometimes,
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not always clear what's even going on. Or like one of the videos we got pointed out that like not every setback is automatically self-sabotage. It's got to be more than just like things not working out.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's about recognizing when you are intentionally holding yourself back. A lot of times we might call it self-sabotage,
Yeah.
but it's actually maybe just like overthinking our anxieties
Yeah.
or maybe making changes too drastically without giving ourselves time to adjust.
Right. So how do we even know if it's the real deal? This one video we got from Psych2Go, it's called 7 Signs You Might Be Self-Sabotaging.
Ah!
They had a whole list. But I think the one about negativity bias really stood out to me. We all know someone who's like a little bit of a pessimist, but I had no idea it could be so detrimental to their health.
Yeah. It's not just about being in a bad mood, right? Like, studies have actually shown that pessimists are at higher risk for heart disease. Like, that's pretty compelling evidence to at least try to be a little more optimistic, right?
Whoa. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's serious. So another one from that list that kind of close to home was procrastination. I mean, we all struggle with that at times, right? But it's more than just being lazy, right?
Exactly. Procrastination can actually like fuel this cycle of stress and anxiety. We avoid something because it feels like too much, and then avoiding it just creates more stress, more guilt.
Yeah.
And then that can kind of spiral into feeling depressed.
Yeah, you're just digging yourself into a deeper hole. Okay, and speaking of things that can add to our stress, that video also talked about disorganization. And I gotta admit, clutter really gets to me.
Well, it's not just about like how it looks. Clutter has actually been shown to increase our stress hormone, cortisol. And like if your cortisol is high all the time, well, that's linked to all sorts of health problems, from inflammation to messing up your blood sugar. So yeah, maybe keeping things tidy, it's more than just a good habit. It could actually be good for your health.
Maybe I need to rethink my whole organized chaos excuse. Okay, so another big one they mentioned was imposter syndrome. Like that feeling that you're a fraud, that you don't deserve your success. I think a lot of people struggle with that, especially like these days where everything's so competitive.
Yeah, what's interesting about imposter syndrome is that it can actually stop you from taking risks and going after what you really want. We're so afraid of being found out as a fake that we don't let ourselves shine.
Yeah, it's true. It's almost like we're holding ourselves back. And then sometimes it's the opposite, right? We take on way too much, like overcommitting, trying to be everything to everyone.
Oh yeah, that one's sneaky. Because like on the surface, it seems good. You want to help everyone. You want to be involved. But if you keep stretching yourself too thin, you just burn out. And that is a huge form of self-sabotage.
Totally. Burnout is not a joke. I've been there. And it is so much more than just being tired. It can affect your memory. You can start making mistakes at work. Your relationships can suffer.
It really can affect like every part of your life. It's just this constant stress. And this brings us to a really fascinating perspective from Dr. Gabor Maté.
Yeah, the interview with him was amazing. He had such a different take on what drives this self-sabotaging behavior. He was saying that it's actually rooted in deeper stuff, like things from your childhood.
Yeah, it's such a powerful way to think about it. Instead of asking what's wrong with you, we should be asking what happened to you.
Totally changes the conversation.
Yeah.
Right? Like he talked about how people-pleasing, that can actually be like an addiction. And it might come from a childhood where you felt like you only got love and approval if you did certain things. So you develop this pattern of always trying to please people.
Yeah, it shows you how your past experiences can really shape how you act today in ways you might not even realize. And Dr. Maté also talked about how trauma can lead to self-sabotage. And he really emphasized that trauma. It's not always about these big, obvious events.
Right. He even talked about how something like sleep training, which a lot of people think is totally normal, that can actually be traumatic for babies.
Yeah, think about it. You're totally helpless and dependent on other people. And then you're left alone to cry. What does that teach you? It teaches you that your needs don't matter and that you can't express your emotions.
Wow. It makes you wonder how much of what we think is our personality is actually just stuff we learned to do early on, like coping mechanisms to deal with our environment, our relationships.
Right. Makes you wonder who you really are under all that. That's what Dr. Maté really encourages us to do. Discover your true self, the one that's beyond all those patterns and defenses.
Which makes me think about the role that society plays in all this.
Yeah.
I mean, we live in a culture that is so stressful. People are so isolated. There's so much competition. It feels like the perfect recipe for self-destructive behavior.
Yeah, that's a really important point. Our environment and our social structures, they definitely contribute to how much self-sabotage is out there. And this connects to another really interesting thing that Dr. Maté talks about, which is the impact of social factors on your physical health.
Right. Like he gave this really powerful example about how racism, as this chronic stressor, can actually make Black Americans age faster on a cellular level. Like their telomeres. Those are the protective caps on the ends of our chromosomes. They're actually shorter.
Wow. It really shows you that your experiences, especially those involving like systemic oppression and discrimination, they have real consequences on your well-being. And it challenges the whole idea that your genes are your destiny.
So it's not all about our genes.
Pretty much. While genes definitely play a role, your environment and your life experiences are much more important. In fact, Dr. Maté mentioned that only 7% of women with breast cancer actually have the BRCA gene mutation. So that means 93% of cases are influenced by other things.
Wow. That's pretty powerful. It sounds like we have a lot more control than we think.
Exactly. And that's why understanding the why of self-sabotage is so important, because then you can start to figure out how to overcome it.
So where do we even begin to unpack all of this?
Well, I think the first step is just becoming aware. Like tuning in to those moments when you notice yourself doing those self-sabotaging things, whether it's thoughts or behaviors.
So it's like we become this observer of our own mind.
Yeah.
Just noticing those patterns,
Well,
but without judgment.
exactly. Just pay attention to when you're procrastinating or when you're being super critical of yourself or any of the other things we've talked about. And then once you see the pattern, you can start to kind of gently explore like where it's coming from.
And that's where Dr. Maté's question comes in, right? Why the pain? Like what need is that behavior trying to meet, even if it's not really serving you anymore?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe it's a need for approval or a need to feel in control, or maybe it's a way to protect yourself from getting hurt or rejected. Once you understand that underlying need, then you can start to challenge those negative beliefs that are really fueling the self-sabotage.
So instead of just saying, I'm a procrastinator, you dig a little deeper and ask yourself, why am I procrastinating right now? Is it because I'm afraid of failing? Or maybe I'm just feeling overwhelmed. Am I trying to avoid something that makes me uncomfortable?
Exactly. And once you've identified those beliefs, you can start to kind of question them. Like ask yourself, is this thought even true? What evidence do I have to support it?
I like that. Like you're putting those negative thoughts on trial. And then maybe you start to experiment a little, like take some small steps outside your comfort zone just to test those beliefs. So like, let's say I'm avoiding a work project because I'm afraid of not doing a good enough job. Well, maybe I break it down into smaller chunks, more manageable tasks, and then just focus on completing one at a time.
That's a great example. It's about taking action, but from a place of self-compassion instead of beating yourself up.
Right. It's so easy to be hard on ourselves,
Yeah.
especially when we feel like we're messing things up.
It really is. Self-compassion is so important in this process. It's about treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer a close friend, and it's such a key ingredient in breaking free from self-sabotage because it creates that safe space to learn and grow.
Dr. Maté also talked about how important it is to have supportive people in our lives.
Oh, absolutely. You know the people you spend your time with. They can either lift you up or hold you back. It's so important to cultivate relationships with people who get it, people who understand your struggles, encourage your growth, and celebrate your wins.
Yeah, like building your own personal cheering section. Find those people who really want to see you thrive.
Exactly. And speaking of support systems, one of the most powerful tools we have for overcoming self-sabotage is connecting with our own bodies.
This seems to be such a big thing these days. Like everyone's talking about mindfulness and meditation.
And for good reason. Practices like yoga or meditation can really help you regulate your nervous system, reduce stress, and reconnect with your inner wisdom. It's all about tuning into those signals that your body is constantly sending you.
Yeah, even Dr. Maté, he's like this renowned expert. And he talks about how important his daily yoga practice is. So it's not just some fluffy new age thing.
No, not at all. It helps you become more aware of your physical and emotional state, which can be so empowering. The more you listen to your body, the better choices you'll make, choices that support your well-being.
This has been so insightful, but I'm also feeling kind of overwhelmed. Like it's a lot to take in, so much to think about. So where do we go from here? Like what does all of this mean in terms of actually doing something? I know, right? It's a lot to process. But I think what's really hitting home for me is that this isn't just about like bad habits or like you just need more willpower. Self-sabotage is often like a signal that there's something deeper going on, like maybe past hurts or needs that aren't being met.
Yeah, I think that's a really beautiful way to look at it. It's like these behaviors are trying to protect us, even if they're not really helping us in the long run.
Right. Like those patterns we developed, they served a purpose at some point. Maybe they even helped us survive. But now we have a chance to see them for what they are, to understand them, and choose a different way.
Exactly. And the amazing thing is that as we start to understand those reasons and challenge those old beliefs and practice being kind to ourselves, we can actually change things for good. We can take back our power and really reach our full potential.
So it's like a journey
Right.
of self-discovery and healing. And it starts with that awareness, right? The gentle noticing of what we're thinking and doing.
Awareness is so important. It's the foundation. And once we have that awareness, we can start asking those powerful questions like, why is this hurting me? What need is this behavior trying to fill? And then we can start trying out new, healthier ways to get those needs met.
And we don't have to do it all alone, right? Having that support system, those people who lift you up and encourage you, that's so crucial.
Absolutely. And don't forget about the power of your body, whether it's yoga or meditation, or just being out in nature. All of those things can help you calm your nervous system, reduce stress, and really tap into your inner wisdom.
It's like building a toolkit, right? Full of resources and strategies to help you along the way.
I love that. And remember, healing isn't always a straight line. There are going to be ups and downs. Times when you feel like you're making progress, and times when you feel like you're taking a step back. But the key is to be kind to yourself through it all. Celebrate the wins, learn from the challenges, and just keep moving forward one step at a time.
It's a good reminder that we're all a work in progress, right? Always growing and changing. And self-compassion is so important. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you hope our listeners will take away from this?
I think the most important thing to remember is that you are worthy of love and happiness and success, and you have the power to break free from self-sabotage and create the life you truly want.
That's so powerful. You are not defined by your past or your struggles. You have the strength and the resilience to overcome those challenges and really shine. So what resonated with you the most from this deep dive? What's one small step you can take today to stop getting in your own way? Like, share, and subscribe for more life-changing insights.